Hi guys, this is extremewirehead here for another remains of the day, and I'm gonna have to call a strike one here because this is the first time in quite a while that I've forgotten to bring my camera along, so I can't really videotape my face while I'm doing this. On the other hand, though, I can show off how horrible I am at playing faster than light FTL. But besides the point, let's get down to my show, which is basically remains of the day. I talk about 3 different things that I thought were interesting about the week, and I hope that you do the same, even if you don't write it down, even if you don't think about it too much. It's just that it's important to always find 3 different things, because otherwise, you're living a gray life where nothing really happens, and that's really sad. Anyway, let's get down to it. The first thing I want to talk about is recording, specifically the Nokia Record, because if you didn't know, a lot of old Nokia phones, they were probably the first cell phones that came out with the idea, hey, why not use the microphone for something else besides just calls and voice messages? Why not have a system where you can just record whatever sound files that you want, something that was happening around you, something that was, in a word, interesting? Because let's say you were in a convention, let's say you were listening to a talk, let's say you were in class and just dozing off, you could actually set it to record and then listen to it again later. It's quite useful if you want to give yourself a quick message, if you want to remind yourself of something. It's also quite useful. The ability to record a very good sound file has its uses, and it's quite nice. It's one of those hidden gems, I think, that Nokia put inside their devices that really shows that even today there's a reason why you should pick Nokia, because those devices were well thought out. The 3310 in particular is like hard as a rock, but other than that, you've got so many different features on such a tiny thing that has a battery that'll last right about forever. So I basically am just turning this into an advertisement for Nokia, because they've done a good job. That tiny feature really shows off how much they want to take advantage of the system. Anyway, let's get down to the second thing. The second thing I want to talk about happened while I was writing this list, because I just remembered. I remember that day back, I don't know, almost 20 years ago, when my English teacher told me you should learn to use your cursive language, because cursive is how adults write, and I hate it. It's just, it makes it look pretty. Does it make it more readable? No. Does it do anything except make like a big ink mess? Does it use more ink than if you just wrote it normally? Yes. I just can't find the reason for it. And maybe it was from a day where it was very important to write things down instead of typing them out, where your writing had to be clearer, had to be efficient at space and all of this stuff. But nowadays, it's losing its purpose, and I think the only reason I myself am proud to have learned it is because most people, of course, would use cursive language in making their signatures, and that's kind of sad. It's a nice art. It's just, unless you go all the way with it, there isn't too much of a point with it. Anyway, the third thing I want to talk about is the nostalgia, specifically nostalgia, because I've been listening to a lot of. I've recently found out about The Completionist and specifically Gerard Butler and all of his work, and I watched a couple of videos, quite a few actually, and it's quite interesting how he's gone through quite a few games that I've seen in my childhood, and I really wish I had the time to revisit some of those, even though I have this gigantic Steam library that really needs beating or completing, for that matter. And it's just fun that even there are some cases where the works of our forefather programmers really do shine, because when you go watch those old games again, sometimes it isn't just your nostalgia goggles. Sometimes it isn't because you love the game when you were like 7 or 8. It's because those games were well made, they had a lot of thought in them. There were people behind them that were amazing, people who got things like Spider-Man in a Tony Hawk game, or all of these amazing things where the music starts to shine because they thought, since we have the capability, why not put in an orchestra? It really starts to shine. And I really think that it's important to see things like that. Our past, the people who've come before us, they weren't idiots. I'll give them that. They weren't idiots. They knew what they wanted. They tried as much as possible to get what they wanted in the simplest way possible. And sometimes those limitations really do shine, because when you get a gem, that gem is especially special, because when you go down the line and you look back at that gem, sometimes some of those gems are going to be sparkling just as well, because the combination of everything that was done was just amazing. And that's always nice to see. Anyway, that's the three things. The third thing ended up being about the completionist, but whatever. So, just to recap, Nokia records, cursive language, cursive writing specifically, and nostalgia and the goggles that they do. Sometimes they're good, sometimes they're bad, sometimes it doesn't really matter because those things were just made like a brick. Anyway, this is Extreme Wirehead, and for the first time, I did say this is like first strike because I actually remember to bring a drink this time, but you can't see it anymore, which is really, really sad. Anyway, this is Extreme Wirehead, and I propose a toast. To all things great and small, this is Wire out, and I'll see you next week.